everybody. John Lorden here. Welcome to another episode of Brain Scratch Case Cracked, being recorded for March 6th, 2018. Thank you so much for joining me here today. A couple of weeks ago on Brain Scratch Searchlight, we covered the case of Tiffany Daniels, and in that case, we mentioned the Klaas Kids Foundation. For today's episode of Case Cracked, I wanted to cover the heartbreaking story that inspired that foundation. Where is Polly Hannah Klaas? Sonoma Valley in Northern California is most well known for its wine country, which contains over 250 wineries. But in the early 1990s, a middle-class town called Petaluma would bring a different type of attention to the area. The town of roughly 45,000 people was previously thought of as a modern-day Mayberry by some residents. However, this quiet and safe town would literally change overnight and become the focus of a horrible occurrence that is literally every parent's worst fear. 1993. Polly Klaas was a vibrant 12-year-old who had recently started a new school year. She was living with her mother, Eve Nicole, after Polly's parents divorced nearly a decade before, but she was still in regular contact with her father, Mark Klaas, who lived in nearby Sausalito. Polly also had a 6-year-old sister. Polly had planned to sleep over with 3 of her friends on Friday, October 1st. However, one of them couldn't make it. Her friends Kate and Jillian came over, and in Polly's bedroom they played board games and had fun well into the night. Polly told her friends that she was going to get some supplies and opened her bedroom door. A bearded man wearing a yellow bandana and holding a long knife was standing in the doorway. He came into the room and tied up Kate and Jillian, putting pillowcases over their heads and telling them to count to 1,000. When the 2 girls eventually freed themselves, Polly and the stranger were gone. The girls woke up her mother, who immediately called the police. An hour later, approximately 30 miles north of Polly's house, a babysitter was leaving her job. Her employer, Dana Jaffe, lived in a rural area and had a long driveway that ran down a hill. As the babysitter neared the bottom, she saw a vehicle that was inside the property gate stuck in a ditch. A grisly-looking man was outside working to get the car freed. The babysitter drove to the nearest gas station and immediately called Dana. She told her about the mysterious man and that she thought Dana should leave. Dana grabbed her kids and got in the car. They also found a nearby phone and used it to call police to report the man who was trespassing on her property. 2 deputies arrived and interviewed the man. They said he seemed out of breath and appeared to have twigs and leaves in his hair. They didn't have any reason to necessarily detain him unless Dana wanted to make a citizen's arrest since he was on her property. She refused, and the deputies searched his vehicle. They found an open beer container, but they didn't witness him driving, so there was really no infraction there that they could hold him on. They had him empty the beer, and they called for a tow truck to get the car out of the ditch. They told the man that he was to leave the property and to never return. Thankfully, they also checked his identity and filled out an information card about him. His name was Richard Allen Davis. Unfortunately, this is a different police force than the one that was working on Polly's abduction, and they used different radio frequencies, so the deputies had no idea that he could be related to Polly's case. A few weeks later, Davis would get arrested on a DUI, but was subsequently released. Petaluma police quickly called in the FBI. A command center was set up and investigators started diligently processing the scene. They found a neighbor who says they saw a man walking up to the house, but didn't think anything was strange about it because he walked right in as if he was very familiar with the place. In Polly's room, they found the items that Kate and Jillian were bound with, some cut cloth and cut Nintendo cables. They also found a piece of Polly's ballet leggings. They searched the room for prints and came across one print that didn't match the girls or Polly's family. Unfortunately, it was a palm print, which there is no database for. They needed to find the person to see if that palm print was a match to him. Large media outlets started reporting on the case as thousands of flyers were being sent around. Two concerned citizens decided to use some new methods for spreading information on this case. They reached out to police and offered to digitize Polly's missing poster so it could be distributed on the internet. They called local computer companies and got 8 computers donated to the cause, using them for faxing Polly's info to thousands of truck stops and supermarkets all over the country. They also contacted a popular internet columnist who used his networks to reach over 20 million online users. Ground searches were organized with volunteers searching over 1,000 square miles. For the first time, computer maps were used to track which areas have and haven't been searched. Bloodhounds were brought in from all over California. In total, over 4,000 people aided in the search for Polly, including Hollywood star and former Petaluma resident Winona Ryder, who offered a $200,000 reward. As the search continued, Polly's mother kept a candle lit in her window, waiting for her daughter to come home. In late November, Dana Jaffe was taking a hike on her property and came across some items she didn't recognize: several scraps of cloth and a torn pair of ballet leggings. She called the authorities and investigators quickly headed out. The same investigator that processed Polly's room went to the scene and immediately recognized the scraps of cloth, same type used to tie up the other girls. They contacted the local authorities to see if they had any calls in that specific area the day Polly went missing. And that's when the information cards from the deputies' interaction with the grisly motorist led them to their suspect's name: Richard Allen Davis. Richard Allen Davis has a checkered past, spending more time in jail than out of it since the age of 12. Some of his previous convictions include violent attacks on women. He had been paroled just 3 months prior to Polly's disappearance. He was living with his sister at the time, approximately 70 miles north of Polly's home. Police quickly apprehended him. The palm print was a match. The torn ballet leggings were a match. Within a few days, Davis confessed and led the authorities to Polly's body, just off the 101 highway in Cloverdale. Authorities believe that Davis may have killed her on Dana Jaffe's property and then moved the body after his interaction with the deputies, but Davis claims that she was killed in Cloverdale. He insists that there was no sexual abuse done to Polly, but without that factor, it's kind of unclear what his motive was. Davis claims he originally went to Petaluma to track down his estranged mother. It is thought that he likely stalked Polly for several days prior to her abduction, learning the details of her life and home layout before conducting the crime. By the time Polly's body was found on December 3rd of 1993, over 2 billion images of Polly Klaas had been distributed worldwide. Her mother blew out the candle in the window as soon as she heard about the discovery of Polly's body, 64 days after Polly was taken from their home. Davis was tried for his crimes against Polly and her friends in San Jose because of wide-scale publicity in Sonoma County. He was convicted in 1996 of 10 felony counts, including the abduction, murder, and attempted molestation of Polly. He was sentenced to death, at which point he flipped off the courtroom. In June of 2009, the Supreme Court upheld his death sentence. He's currently sitting on death row in San Quentin State Prison. There are numerous memorials dedicated to Polly. Flowers and toys can be found at the site where her body was found. There is a large mural at her school and even a performing arts center named in her honor. However, her legacy goes much farther than that. Not only did this case usher in a new era for the internet assisting in cases like this, it affected California's 3 strikes law, Megan's Law, and was used as a case example for illustrating the need of the Amber Alert system. Of course, it also moved Polly's father, Mark, to start the Klaas Kids organization. What better way to honor Polly? Case cracked. A tough story. I've never heard of something like this where a child is I mean, we've had a few cases, but nothing this brazen where this guy just literally walks into someone's house. And of course, the culture at that time in the early 90s in this particular area was one of those where people felt safe leaving their front doors unlocked. And this case certainly changed that very rapidly. I don't know. It's still a heartbreaking case, but it is kind of amazing to look at it and to see all the good that happened, all the people that rallied around trying to find Polly. And then, of course, knowing that justice has been served in this case and the man responsible for it is sitting in prison. Will he ever get the death penalty? I don't know. From what I know about California, they don't actually always process those, but I'm certain he is not going anywhere. And if nothing else, he'll be spending the rest of his life in prison. Take care, everyone. Keep your families safe. And please come back to the Lord and Arch channel tomorrow. I'll have more for you then.